C# gives us some options for outputting variables and also some features to help when we need to print out special characters. Since we're still new at this, I'll remind you that we're going to need to create a project for this program. In this case, this one is separate from everything else I'm working on, so I'm going to put it in a new solution as well. But if it was part of an assignment with multiple programs, or if in some other way it was related to something else, I probably would put it into an existing solution. I'll make sure I'm creating a console application, and I'll give the project a descriptive name. This one's going to be about Ella Fitzgerald. And the first thing I'll do is rename the file from program.cs to ellafitzgerald.cs. That's really not necessary for you, but since I post this code online, I want to make sure that the file names are descriptive for my students who are looking at it. You can right-click to rename it from your IDE, and since I'm in Writer, I have to go to the Edit menu first and then select Rename. In other cases, you can probably just select Rename. Next, I'll delete that template code it gives me and I'll put a comment block at the top. If this is for an assignment, be sure to use the format that's specified in the directions. And now I'm ready to go. I'm going to start by creating a few variables so I have some data to work with. Alright, now I'd like to display this data in my program, so I'm going to use console.writeLine. And we've seen that I can just put the variable name in parentheses and it will display that value. If I use another WriteLine statement to kind of add on to that, it goes down to the next line. Okay, so I'll change that first WriteLine to a write. This works, but it seems like a pain. I'm going to have to keep creating new lines of code every time I want to add some information. The first option we have to make this a little easier is called Concatenation, which just means jamming two strings together. I just put a plus sign and then add on the next string. This is better, but it's still kind of clunky. A better option is something we call Interpolation. I have to toggle it on by putting a $sign, which we call the string symbol, before my quotation marks. Now I can put a placeholder wherever I want a variable's value. I just put that variable name in curly braces, and when the program runs, it will just insert whatever value is in the variable at that time. This lets me just type my output and insert the variables wherever I want them. And actually, I can put in whatever expression I want. We haven't learned a lot about this stuff yet, but I can do a simple calculation. And at runtime, it will evaluate that and put the result in place of that placeholder. I'm actually not a fan of beginners putting calculations in their output anyway, and we'll look at the reasons for that kind of throughout the course. So I'm going to change this to a variable. For now, keep in mind that my assignments in class need to assess your ability to use variables, so you should be making a variable to store this kind of stuff. Okay, so interpolation gives us a much better way to output our variables. There is one other potential problem I want to look at here. My next line of output has this nickname, and I want to put that nickname in quotation marks so that the quotation marks show up in my output. But when I put a quotation mark inside that string, the compiler thinks I'm just closing the string off. I need to signal to the compiler that this quotation mark is actually part of the string. To do that, I'm going to put a backslash before the quotation mark. This is the backslash that's above the Enter key on your keyboard. This is called an escape sequence. It tells the compiler that the next character is special. This works now, but I'm still missing that second quotation mark. I'll just do the same thing, backslash, and then the quotation mark. It ends up looking funny because I have these two quotation marks back to back. We can use escape sequences for other things as well. \n adds what's called a new line character. This tells the computer to move on to the next line, like hitting enter. And notice that I don't put any spaces around it or anything like that, or it will output those spaces as well. I just stick it right where I want it to go and it'll convert that to a new line. \T is the tab character, which is useful for indenting and for lining up numbers in columns. And there are a handful of others, but the quotation mark and the new line are the ones we'll use the most. Alright, so that gives us a couple of tricks to make our right line statements a little more useful. As we learn more, we'll find out even more ways to use these two features.